Welcome to another edition of Talking Politics with Dotun Oladipo. I am your regular host, Dotun Oladipo, the managing editor of The Eagle Online, operating at www.theeagleonline.com.ng. As usual, this is a reminder that Talking Politics with Dotun Oladipo has a collaboration with another YouTube channel, Newspop NG. So as you like, share, and subscribe to Talking Politics with Dotun Oladipo, we also encourage you to do the same with Newspop NG. In today's edition of the program, we'll be looking at two critical issues that affect Lagos State, which remains the commercial nerve center of the country and the country's former capital before it was moved to Abuja. These twin issues are the ban on the operation of commercial motorcyclists, popularly called Okada, and also the numerous incidences of collapsed building in the state. Joining me today on this edition of the program are two senior journalists with several years of experience in the profession and who have stayed in the state and have been part of the progress the state has recorded since the return to democracy, and who have also been a part of all the developments in the state, who will be discussing these twin issues with me. To my right is one of them, the publisher of Upshot Reports, Mr. Mojeed Jamiu. You are welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, and good evening, our viewers.
And then also, to my left is the managing editor of Newsbreak NG, Mr. Bamidele Johnson.
Thank you, Dotun. Good afternoon, viewers.
You are welcome, sir.
Thank you.
For the ban on Okada, which has been effected by the state governor, Sanwo-olu, in some of the local governments and local council development areas in the state, I would like to start with Mr. Bamidele Johnson, who has had an experience and which is worth sharing with our readers on what the ban on Okada is to him, what it means to him, and if he feels that it should be sustained.
Well, what it means to me, in one word, or in a phrase, is enormous delight. I'm extremely happy that the government has taken that step. Though in installments, I would have preferred that the government ignores the instrumental arrangement and does the wholesale thing. Why? Because I have seen people get involved in Okada accidents. I was a victim. I wasn't riding. I got out of my car. I was going to cross the road. It was around 7:20 p.m. And some guy who was persuaded that his eyes were good enough without headlights, an Okada rider, had a passenger, and I don't know who would also trust someone riding at night without headlights to take him safely to where he was going. To cut a long story short, the guy slammed into me as I made to cross the road. I hit my face on the third road, multiple fractures around my skull, face, nose. I filled with blood, for which I still suffer declining vision. People have had more grotesque experiences. A few months after my own happened, a journalist with Vanguard took a bike who became hauled him off, and he landed with his head he was in coma for like 2 weeks. An operation was conducted. He came around a bit but was never conscious and died. Essentially, the government is trying to save us from a lot of things. And I want to say that the government has come a bit late to the party. It should have happened a lot earlier. And we would have been saved because it is such an unregulated thing. Someone comes from his hometown, from wherever. He has no skill, he has no job. He is seriously underage, he's like 14. And then the guy in 3 days has started taking passengers. No license, no licensing process, nothing. So there's no way if we do not ban it. I know people are saying, okay, it's going to cost people their livelihoods and all that. As much as I want to agree that people are entitled to work and feed and take care of themselves, I do not think that that right includes the right to kill others. I don't.
Okay, maybe before we go into all of the arguments surrounding this, what is your take on this first ban on Okada in Lagos?
I can't agree less with Bamidele Johnson on the need for the Lagos State government, or the reason given by the Lagos State government to ban Okada in 10 out of the 20 local governments. And I think about 30-something LCDAs now. We have 57 LCDAs in Lagos, but officially there are 20 local governments. But this local government, like Alimosho, for example, has 6 local government, but almost about 12 LCDAs.
Yes.
So the government took this decision, which is a populist one, so to say. I've had encounters with Okada to motorcyclists. There are several security implications to the characters riding Okada, and I'm not one of those who subscribe to the fact that some people must eke out a living by riding Okada. No, there are far more security implications. Most of these Okadas are not M1 numbered. I mean, so whatever happens with them, and they use some of these Okadas in hit and run and easy getaway for armed robbers. So apart from that, go under most of the bridges at night, Obalinde, Oshodi, Mile 12, you see them in thousands sleeping. I don't understand how somebody can lie straight on a bike and sleep there overnight. And you see them early in the morning the following day, entering some places, doing what we call quote-unquote short puts. They don't have toilets, they don't have homes, they sleep right there on those Okada. And several other bad things associated with Okada. For example, in a data released by the Lagos State Ministry of Health, we had 387 cases of Okada accident in January, 375 in February, in March it was 551, April 409, in May 416, but when the ban took effect from June, it dropped to 289. And between June and now, statistics from the Ministry of Information and Transportation, I mean 2 ministries handling this issue, show that about 7,500 motorcycles, now also known as Okada, have been impounded. And there was a video of where these impounded motorcycles were being crushed to show that the government actually means business. And like Bamidele Johnson said, I am of the opinion that the ban should be total. We can run a smart city like Lagos with Okada. Okada has been banned in Kano, and that's why you see there is a reduction in the level of crime in any state where you ban Okada. And Lagos as a metropolitan city, a city with about 22 million population, we can't continue to rely on Okada as a means of transportation. So it's a good development, and I think it should go beyond the 10 local governments and all the 20 local governments and the 57 LCDAs. The government should go ahead and ban Okada. It will lead to a reduction in crime, a reduction in accident rates, and actually there will be sanity. They don't obey traffic rules. You see them facing one way on a dual carriageway, and you'll be like wondering how. So I mean, it beats my imagination. And most of these characters riding Okada are not even Nigerians. A lot of studies have shown, like he said, most of them are not even registered. They don't have licenses. They don't jump on the bike and start moving. They don't even know the roads. So it's a good thing, and I'm happy that the governor is not considering re-election. He's not considering election. He's taking it in public interest. He said, well, some people would have thought, well, we are approaching the elections, it will affect his votes. No. Same people are in support of the ban.
So you don't believe it will at all? Because it's one of the arguments. Two arguments or three have been put forward. One of them is the implication on the electoral fortune of the governor, and the other side of it is the economic imports that you are strangulating the businesses of some people.
If I may speak, I think the governor should be congratulated for even deciding at this point, when the elections are approaching, to ban the use of Okada. And I think it deserves to be commended. I also think it deserves to be criticized for not doing so sufficiently early. Will it affect his electoral fortunes? Well, nobody can say exactly. You don't know how many of the Okada riders are registered. You don't know how many of their dependents are registered to vote, or you don't know if
their sponsors,
or even prior to now, if they were inclined towards voting for the governor or for some opponent. So we can't say with any ultimacy how much of effect it will have on his electoral fortunes. But I want to say that I commend him for having taken that decision. The economic argument, yes. If people lose what from which they feed, it will affect them. But if you have a trade, and that trade is recklessly practiced, that trade endangers others, that trade could cost limbs and arms, and you are really gleeful in carrying on that trade in total disregard of regulations, you really do not have no right to continue practicing that trade. Because as much as you have the right to trade, the other people have the right to move freely and not be injured, and not be killed, and not be harassed. If you drive, if you want to turn right, someone advised me that if I'm turning right, I should check my wing mirror 6 times. Because if you check twice, you will just discover that the 3rd time, some bike from somewhere, because they don't understand that you do not overtake by the right. Because there is no training, no grooming, anything. Somebody just comes and starts riding. So you can't say because people need to feed. Armed robbers also need to eat. It is why they rob. So we should leave them? No, we cannot. If your trade endangers others and endangers a lot of people, there is no reason for the government to allow you to keep doing it.
You share the same sentiment?
Yes, and I will also add to the fact that, an average Okada person see a vehicle owner as as an oppressor. And they expect you to be able to even wait for them and slow down for them, even when they are riding against the tide, when they are riding against traffic.
In a prohibited direction.
In a prohibited direction. So something happened about 2 weeks ago. It was a friend. He was driving. I mean, nobody would have. He just came back from UK. He was driving. I mean, he never expected that somebody has been away for quite some time. He was driving on his own lane, and lo and behold, there was a traffic lights. He stopped, and when it was time for him to move, we expect that nobody will come. And this Okada just came, and this guy was like, "What is going on here?" The Okada was wrong, so of course he rammed into the Okada. Before you say Jack Robinson, thank God I was close by. They all gathered. Despite the fact that the Okada was wrong, they were compelling him to repair the Okada and even take the guy to the hospital. In fact, they were almost mobbing him.
No, there's a solidarity of lunacy.
And to make matters worse, it was in Ikeja where Okada had been banned. So it was not until I called a police, the IRS, and I told them that, are you guys aware that, when I got there, they were almost mobbing him, but because they didn't know, I said, are you guys aware that Okada is not even banned? And so when they had one of the RRS vehicles coming, they took off. So several other issues like that, incidents like that, happen on a daily basis. And especially, it happened, I mean, for women drivers, they are victims. So it is, in fact, we should be giving kudos to the governor for having that audacity, so to say, to ban Okada. But like I said earlier, he should take it to all the local governments.
Should.
I mean, there are other alternatives.
See, there was a day I was driving from the National Stadium. That was the most frightening thing I think I've seen with Okada people. I was driving from the National Stadium, left the place at around 11. The road was free. You know, I was driving to Maryland, and some Okada guy who should have been riding on the other side took the prohibited direction. What will be your excuse? The road was not blocked.
Yes.
No jam. But you know, they think that they are above everything.
Yeah, they own the road.
They also think that they can, with that bike, once they are riding that bike, they can go through the eye of a needle. And that is why you see in tight spaces,
They want to move.
it's really, you know, they have to go.
Yeah, well, there has also been this argument of alternatives, especially for those who don't live in the main city and then who cannot even afford the alternatives that there are, like Uber, like Bolt, the regular taxi. And that even where government had made efforts, for instance, the small buses, the first mile, the last mile, that these aren't enough. How do we take care of those segments of the society?
See, they call that government has not banned keke. Now, except on bridges. Now, for most of us in Lagos, I think we have ourselves to blame. We are almost always in a hurry. We want to get somewhere fast, not minding the safety implications. Now, if you plan your journey well, if you are supposed to get somewhere in 30 minutes, maybe give yourself like 1 hour. There are other options. There are the 8-seaters,
The first mile, last mile.
No, not even the
Even the Korokwe people.
Yeah, the Korokwe. They are all there. The tricycles, the one they call I think is it Marwa or something. There are also options. They are everywhere. All the news account lists. But because people believe that Okada will be faster, and there's always a price to pay. In trying to get to your destination fast, you might end up faster in bombing, if you are lucky enough. So people should try to plan their journey and also look for alternatives. Of course, government has provided the land ride, the first and last mile. I mean, a lot of them are on the streets now. Might not be enough, but and I think by December, the blue line will be in operation.
That's the real line now.
On the red line. And also by March.
Don't let us also forget that there was some restriction, reasonably successful, in 2012 when they did the transport sector reforms. I think under
I think that was
Fashola. It was successful, and people got by. They were going to places.
Yes.
Because I remember around where we are having these chats. A road here, Okada was restricted, and nobody dared because the enforcement was really stiff. So they stayed off. You knew at that point that if they got your bike, you most likely will not see the bike again. Or even if you are going to pay some bribe, it will not make sense. It will be some really stratospheric bribe, because those who are the bribe receiving community also felt this was our own time to chop. So people stayed off. So we've been there before, and if some success was made of that, I don't see why we should not make some success of this. We can't be living like animals. Every day you talk about Senna climbs. Do you see bikes in Senna climbs?
But really, are you excited about this prospect of the railway becoming functional within the city?
Oh, sure.
Are you?
So I'm very excited. People who the most livable places in the world have things like that, because it moves a lot of people all at once.
Yeah.
A lot of people all at once. So you can afford to leave your car at some train station, go to wherever you are going, maybe to some 10-11 kilometers away from where you live, and go to work, and then know the time the train will come, and then you go. So you don't clog the roads. Your car is there, and you are not exerting efforts by driving. So in some way you are healthier. Just look at the little one that we see on the Lagos-Ibadan corridor. That is not even intracity that I don't do everything. Now, there's no way I'm going to drive to Ibadan. No way in the world I'm going to drive to Ibadan. If I want to go to Ibadan now, I simply go to the train station down in Agege. I get on the train, I go to Ibadan. I want to leave Ibadan, I come back the same way. No hold up, it's comfortable, there is AC, you can relax your back, you can charge your phones, and all of that. When we have it intra-city, I think it will have an enormous effect on the way we live. Not just how we move, that you don't have to drive. Some people are enjoying that. In some other places that they don't really need to take their cars and begin to drive all over the place and all of that. So it will move a lot of people who will need to be on buses, who will need to be in private vehicles. They will be on the train and go to wherever they are going and return via the same means.
Are you also excited about that?
No, really excited. And from what the governor told us about a month ago, the blue line should be in Lagos in another month or thereabouts. They are already been shipped from China, while the red line is coming from America. And I think the structural work is almost complete. 2 weeks ago, we saw the last beam of the blue line being put in place at CMS. So it's a development I'm quite excited about, and I think I must commend the Lagos State government. We should not forget the fact that a rail project is a project that naturally should be undertaken by a national government. So if a subnational like Lagos, like a state government, is undertaking it, then we should give kudos to that kind of arrangement, because in other cities in the world, when you talk of Nairobi, it is the government of Kenya that is doing it. If we talk of South Africa, it's the government of South Africa. But in this instance, it is Lagos State government, not Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that's why it is a very huge project. But then, it's a project that can finance itself, because the blue line will be running on electricity, while the red line will be sharing the tracks with the Nigerian Railways Corporation and running on, I think, fuel, or I think diesel or LPFO. So it's something that's going to change the narrative in terms of mass transportation in Lagos. On the last count, they expect that about 1 million people will be moved monthly by the trains, by the coaches when they arrive. So it's going to change the face of transportation in Lagos and actually enable Lagos to become that smart city, that metropolitan city that we all look forward to.
Yes, thanks for that. But one other issue that appears to have dominated discussion and which has really not left us till now is this issue of collapsed building in Lagos. What do you say to that, especially in the light of the resignation of the Commissioner for Physical Planning, that's Engineer Trisalapo, and then just as we were about getting into the studio, the appointment of Engineer Omotayo Martins by Governor Babajide Sanwo-olu. Will this change anything in this equation, considering where we are?
It won't change anything as long as people cut corners. Buildings will continue to collapse, and the Ministry of Physical Planning marked some buildings for demolition. That some buildings that has structural defects in several parts of Lagos. But you see, or rather, there are some they will give the owners a notice to do some adjustment to those buildings. Maybe you refurbish your building, or you add some piling to it and stuff like that. They will advise you on what to do. But when you fail to do it, they will mark your building for demolition. But what we have seen is that some officials of the ministry, rather than enforce the rules, rather than stick to the rules, rather than for them to be professional, like the Ikoyi 21-story building that collapsed and led to the loss of the life of the property owner, I think Femi Odubono. It was supposed to be a 15-story building. It was raised to 21. It eventually came down and claimed the life of the owner. Now, the 7-story building that, of course, took the commissioner for the former commissioner for fiscal planning. In his tide. Also, a land was meant to be a 3-story building, and an approval, quote unquote, was given for a 7-story building. Now, if you check that particular building, even before it was fully brought down, there was a stop work notice dated February 2022. But that stop work notice was not adhered to. They continued to work there till the day it came down, claiming 6 lives. So, as long as people cut corners with approvals, if you are building a structure that is more than 1 story in Lagos, you are expected to get approval for each floor. And the Lagos State Material Testing Agency and the Lagos State Building and Control Agency, LAPCA, all of them, and the Ministry of Physical Planning, they all work together. So how can these three key agencies, the LAPCA, material testing, and physical planning, how can they fail to see that there was something wrong with that building? But then, the person who pasted that stop work order in February, was that stop order adhered to? If it was not adhered to, so then what happened? Should we just accept the resignation of the commissioner like that? I mean, a lot of investigation should go into the collapse of that building. And Lagosians and even Nigerians are still waiting for the report of investigation into the 21-story building, because some heads must definitely roll to serve as a deterrent. Because until we do that, buildings will continue to collapse. Like, I mean, sorry for the digression now. Recall that the 21-story building that collapsed, the structural engineer actually resigned his contract, saying that the owner was not adhering to rules of engagement, and that he was telling him to use some substandard materials, and because he couldn't do that. But how many engineers, how many contractors will do that? Rather, they will even want to encourage the owner to cut corners so as to make more profit. So probably that was what happened with the 7-story building that just collapsed. But then lives are being lost.
Well, I want
People are quick to blame government officials. Do you share that?
Yes, I actually think that the Physical Development Ministry and related agencies are, I don't want to be uncharitable, but there is no way I'm not going to use this. They are an ethics-free trade zone. I don't think people there think of public interest. What they think of principally are their own pockets. And then they instantiated this with stop work order here and there and there. Just 2 days ago, I was driving through a place, and I saw a house that I've known for some 25 to 27 years, bungalow. The owner, or maybe his kids, decided that it was time to go up. So he took up the roof and then put another floor on it, and that floor has been roofed. And you know, it was clear that the person to whom the job was given is either not smart or a quack, because they don't have a staircase. Because the staircase will be in some enclosure. Mm-hmm. What they have is, you have the steps outside of the house. You know, in front of the house, you have the steps. I don't know how much of reinforcement was done to ensure that the structural defects that may have existed because the building was designed for a bungalow. I don't know how much of reinforcement was made. But these are the things we keep seeing. And you have officials of physical
who approve such development, rehabilitation.
Usually they see, because you see they go and mark X, stop work, and then you see that the work never stops. Which means
nobody is there to stop.
You know, nobody, they don't return. You know, they go there. Somebody pats another person on the back, then you high five the person committing the offense. So what I think is important at this stage, I think there should be some elaborate public enlightenment education campaign on the dangers of cutting corners. Because in many cases when these things happen, I don't even remember if there has been one in which a ministry official or an official of a department was smashed up when the building collapsed. So it is probably the person who has been hired and his workers who will go down, and then the owner will lose money. But the owners, also those who give them the jobs are highly prosecuted there. So there should be some enlightenment campaign that if you are building, stick to the rules, get the approvals, and then again, there should be some surgical operation in related ministries and departments around physical and urban planning. There is a lot of informality in the way we do things. Somebody can just wake up and maybe his kids now have made some money. One is a tipper owner in Ifo and says, Bami, this house must go up. And the man says, fantastic. I've been itching to have a story building to my name. So get a bricklayer, and they give some money to the bricklayer. And the council guys go there and you are renovating this place, you didn't see us, blah 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 blah. They will issue some paper. Okay, they will say to them, we have take 50k and go. Maybe 3 other groups will come, 50k, and the thing comes down, it costs us more than 50,000. Yeah. So there has to be some searchlight. Who has done what? They won't get everybody all at once, but they need to get some members of that crooked community messing up things in the ministries and agencies and deal with them appropriately. Somewhere around where I live, you will see there is a gully that stretches over a long distance. People are building in the gullies. In those days, I used to think they just built and they didn't buy the land. And I was told that the plots were sold to them. I said, by who? By who? Okay, they bought, they built, and they are living there. Heavens forbid, someday there is a slide. If there is a slide, the calamity will be phenomenal. So something has to happen.
Yes, but there is also this argument that there are too many agencies, that they are unwieldy, that they should be tidied up in such a way that there is someone who can, oversee all of these operations, so that it's not as if one agency shows up today at a particular site, tomorrow another one shows up the following day. I don't know what you make of that.
Well, I think there's some overlap, and from experience, I've seen a place where the officials of Ministry of the Environment came and said they were going to enforce certain things. And then I think a week later, some people from physical planning also came. So there is a chance that there's some overlap. And the overlaps need to be straightened out, and clear instructions given to one agency or ministry that this is the limit of what you can do, and this other one can do so. And then at the council level too, you keep finding people creeping out of the woodwork to start claiming authority that no, you can't go on. This one is for council. And I think, in addition to that, so when we have that, it should also be worked into the public enlightenment thing that I spoke about earlier, so that you know exactly who to deal with, what you are dealing with.
Your take on that?
Yeah, see, there are several agencies involved in regulation, and I think they have different duties. Like, for example, we have the Lagos State Building and Control Agency, LAPCA, there's a LAPCA, then there's the Lagos State Materials Testing Agency. Those ones are saddled with the responsibility of making sure that if you're supposed to use a 12-inch iron rod for your
12 mm.
12 mm, this one must be. And you are supposed to use a quarter size or half-inch granite. Then is it chap sand or soft sand? Then the quality of cement that you must use. Then how deep your piling must be if you are raising, if you are doing more than a story or so. So there are different agencies, but physical planning is just, I think, just about to approve the plan for the building. I mean, for areas that are close to the airport, for example, you can't go beyond a particular level in terms of height. So, and if you are building in Lekki or maybe in Agbado, the kind of materials we use will be different if you are in Lekki. So that's why all these agencies, they have their duties. And when we now talk about the building, in more than 90% of the cases, the owner of the building is the contractor, is the structural engineer, is the architect, is the mechanical engineer, is the civil engineer, is the consultant, is the electrical engineer. Call me Baba Muri, let him bring 10 loads of chap sand.
Yauchuko.
Bring cement. So he keeps calling, calls Baba Onene, he should bring
12 mm.
12 mm. So whether it is 12 mm or 8 mm, he doesn't know.
You don't have the competence to determine what.
That is it. So that's why the Lagos State government insists that in a building you must have a list, a signpost showing who your structural engineer is, your electrical engineer, your consultant, the owner of the property, for what purpose is being built. So those that when they get there, they know who to call, and you must have their phone numbers there for. But for more than 80% of the buildings under construction in Lagos, you won't have that there. So it calls to question the role of enforcement by these agencies. But you see that these buildings keep going on. The one that just collapsed only had COVID protocols. Are we still in the COVID era? And people go there on a daily basis to check what they are doing, but the moment they grease their pockets, it's carry go. So until we are able to enforce some of these rules, buildings will continue to collapse, and it will be unfortunate.
Well, I think maybe I'll just throw this to you as we end this conversation. Maybe, are you excited or are you willing for the increments to continue as governor in Lagos State in 2023? What are the things you have for or against him?
Yeah, Sanwo-olu has started well, and for me, if he's able to deliver the rail transportation, that is huge. It's enough for him to get a re-election. And also, I give kudos to him for being able to complete the projects that were initiated by his president, especially the Pennsylvania Bridge. The Pennsylvania Bridge was at 30% when he came in. In other climes, the bridge will still just be there. It won't continue. Like, Sanwo-olu has completed more than 15 housing projects initiated by Fashola, which Ambode didn't touch, and they are from the same party. So the issue of abandoned projects, on that area, I give him kudos. He has also started some on his own and completed them. So I am of the opinion that if he has another chance, he will do more. I give him kudos. I want to see him continue as the governor of Lagos in another 4 years.
I'm in agreement with him. And you know, he mentioned the Pennsylvania Bridge a while ago. Because I use the bridge, and I used to use the road before the bridge. And I remember how much grief I got from using that axis when the bridge wasn't there. So now that the bridge is there, yeah, easily I get no issues. And I'm seeing a lot of things around me and elsewhere. And usually the way my assessment is my immediate environment. How much of impact of the government am I feeling? Because if you are doing stuff in Ekwe
or Lagos Island alone,
or Lagos Island, and I'm not feeling it,
because it's still on the mainland.
There's no way I'm going to be shouting hallelujah. So you have to wait for those chaps who are having fun in Ekwe and to shout hallelujah. So now I'm getting a lot of relief. And you know, like some 4 months ago, the road that runs through my place, fairly long road, had been bad for a while. You know, it just came in about a week.
where is that?
Obawale. The road that runs through Obawale now is smooth. You just go. So I'm feeling it, and I've seen it in other places too. And importantly, you said he has not abandoned projects. Some more self-absorbed person would have said, no, I'm not going to touch.
I want to start my own.
I'm going to start my own thing. There's a bus station at Agege. It's almost done, and it was inherited. So I think the guy has earned the right to continue.
Well, it's been nice talking to you, gentlemen of the press. Not of your press. Thank you once again for joining us, Mr. Mojeed Jamiu and Mr. Bamidele Johnson. I hope we'll be able to do this very soon again, especially when the campaigns begin, so that we can analyze fully the parties that are in the race, and then the contenders and the pretenders.
Okay.
It's been another wonderful edition of Talking Politics with Dotun Oladipo. Don't forget that you can contribute to our discussion via email or via a 2-minute video sent to info@theeagleonline.com.ng. Again, info@theeagleonline.com.ng. Don't forget to make it as civil as it can be, because this is a platform for ideas. We thank you for joining us once again, and don't forget that we have a partner in Newspop NG. Until we come your way again, I am your regular host, Dotun Oladipo.